Welcome to Valley Worthy of Note, a bi-weekly update of people, places, and events making news in your community.
The Derby Greenway took some giant steps forward recently with the installation of several bridges along the Housatonic. These elevated steel footbridges, weighing over 100,000 pounds collectively, span the rail line that crosses the Housatonic River to Shelton. They were delivered in sections and assembled on site. Concrete will be poured on the decks in the spring. This part of the Greenway, which is nearing completion, stretches 1.7 miles from the Derby-Shelton Bridge on the Housatonic to Division Street on the Naugatuck. It will eventually connect from Shelton, including the Riverwalk, to downtown Ansonia, and eventually, hopefully, to Torrington.
I think the completion of this trail is a monument to Derby's past and a predictor of Derby's future. You know, the trail itself frames the downtown Derby, or the old Birmingham borough, which at one point was an industrial area and then a retail area. Along the trail, we've got 6 bridges, we link 3 towns, and we link 2 rivers. The nice thing about it is when you look at the history of the towns and the rivers, there have been different periods of history. The colonial times, where it was used for fishing and providing food. Later on, this was an area where they built ships for sea trade. When that died, then it became an industrial and a retail base. And this time around, 50 years after the flood of '55, this is going to be a center for recreation in the community.
A 9 by 5 foot grid mural is being created through the collaboration of 8 Shelton seniors and 32 art students. The mural showcases 5 Shelton landmarks: Plum Memorial Library, Riverwalk Memorials, the Senior Center, Housatonic Dam, and Huntington Green. Local art instructor Bob Borowski photographed the sites and then created a working layout as a guide for artists. Seniors and students selected the square of their choice, then enlarged each sketch proportionally on tracing paper, made a graphic transfer of the drawing, outlined the drawing in ink, and finally added color. 11 of the 40 pieces have been finished thus far, while others are in various stages of completion. This artwork, which is like other grid murals, will be assembled and hung at the Shelton Senior Center.
Well, I love being able to work with everyone around me doing a collaborative piece where they all fit together. And it's really nice that we're working with the seniors from the Senior Center too, because it's making it more of a community activity. Well, I picked the piece that I did because it had a lot to do with architecture, and it was very geometric, and I'm interested in that kind of thing as opposed to the trees.
Chris Russell of Naugatuck recently recorded an audition tape for Saturday Night Live at Tele-Media Studios in Seymour. Chris, who has been working as a stand-up comic in New York City for the past 5 years, had a chance meeting with SNL's executive producer Lorne Michaels, who asked Chris to send a demonstration of his onstage talents to Marcy Klein at Saturday Night Live.
Well, I've been doing stand-up for about 5 years. I started when I got out of college, or right in my senior year of college in Boston. And I love being on stage and doing stand-up, but there's only so much you can do with it. I'm always going to be a stand-up comic, and I always would love to perform live, but it just seems like Saturday Night Live is one of the ultimate tools for any comic or creative artist type to express themselves. And I felt that way since I was 4 years old or 5 years old, and saw the John Belushi and those guys at dinner time watching TV and stuff, and have ever since. So, but you have to prove yourself as a stand-up comic or an improv performer, which I've done a lot of both. But it's sort of like I really feel like, okay, I've done this for 5 years live on stage, and now it's time to do it live on TV.
A piece of Oxford town history has found its way home via eBay. The auction website is where town historian Dorothy DeBishop found an antebellum Civil War friendship quilt made in Oxford. For a bid of $1,000, the antique quilt was sent to Oxford's Historical Society for safekeeping. Originally made as a gift for Harriet Chatfield in 1855, the quilt is assembled from many different sections stitched together and includes signatures of over 40 Oxford residents that are still visible on the cloth. Katie Sieben, a senior at Seymour High School, worked closely with Dorothy in researching and creating a pictorial history of the quilt and its signers, which include Colonel John Davis and members of the Sperry, Treat, and Cable families, who still have descendants living in town.
We took this quilt to a class at Oxford School this spring when it first came, before we had our public showing, and we showed it to the children there, talked about the individual signatures, where they came from, and told them the story of Ophelia Smith, who got married to Benjamin Beach, and when her husband went to war in the Civil War, he never came back. And in the following years, the families in the neighborhood, the Davises, the Treats, and the Cables, and the Chatfields, you'll find entries in their diary of them going up and doing things for Ophelia, the widow. And in showing that to the children at Oxford School, they got not only a sense of history, but a sense of community at its very best. When they called this a friendship quilt, it was a friendship that would last for all their lives. And I think that's an important thing for the people of Oxford to look at and carry as a value into the future.
Valley Worthy of Note is a presentation of Tele-Media Cable.